Hey guys, what's up? How's it going? Welcome back to a brand new episode of the Mindset Kitchen podcast with your host Shiaf Hashim, that's me, and my man Kareem Mustafa. Hey Kareem, what's up, bro? How's it going?
What's up, Chef? What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode. Really excited to be jumping right into this one with you guys today.
Okay, so we're thinking that in today's episode we'll jump right into the topic without much banter because every episode we start and we do a lot of banter, then we get into the topic. So
Yeah.
today, Kareem. Okay, so what are we discussing today?
All right. So today I want to talk about something that I know was on your mind and my mind, Chef, and we thought we just jump right into it and actually just unpack it live in front of everybody on the episode. And it's really the topic of rethinking failure, how we think about failure, and how we can actually use it to our advantage as opposed to something that's more of a setback. So maybe I can start with a question to you, Chef. Like when you think of failure, um, when do you think in your mind, like when you go about your day-to-day life, when do you come across a situation and you feel like, wow, I actually failed, or I feel like this was a failure?
Nice. I mean, that's an interesting question.
Yeah.
So I think in a situation where I had set some sort of a goal or some sort of expectation, yeah,
Hmm.
on myself, on expectation on a particular situation, or for example, if I had a particular outcome in mind, and when I don't achieve that outcome, I think that is for me, I would classify it as a failure. Like, for
Yeah.
example, the success of it was that, for example, I made X or I did X and X happened,
Hmm.
but instead of X happening, Y happened. So that is, I think, when things don't go my way, bro, in a nutshell, I think that is when I would say, you know what, I failed at it.
Yeah, it's the
What
same
about
for
you?
me as well. Like whether it's, in my case, many times, I think by far a lot of the goals that I set for myself are artificial in the sense that they're man-made. It's something that we just dreamt up in our minds, and we decided, all right, well, this is officially going to be the goal. And then anytime we don't approach or achieve this, this artificially created thing, uh, in my mind, I feel like this was a failure. Sometimes I feel I personally was a failure. Sometimes I feel this whole situation, this is not good. This is a failure as a situation. And I think one of the things that I've recently realized, and like most of my realizations, very, very simple and obvious things, but they just hit me so profoundly. But I don't know if it's the same for you, is that a lot of people think of failure as every time failure occurs, it's something to be avoided, because essentially it's a step back, it's a step away from the goal. So if I want to move forward, failure is essentially me stepping backwards, and this is a waste of time. Like, how am I moving towards my goal in this case? When in fact, a lot of people would probably would agree with us, or have come to a similar realization that failure is actually a step in the direction of success. And so, if you get success, if you achieve your goal, if you are successful in your endeavor, in your specific endeavor, you are moving in the right direction. But I would argue that even if you have failed, regardless of whether you think how you think of failure, I think that this is still something that is in the same line, in the same direction. So success is a step forward, failure is a step forward, if I'm making sense. And this is on the tip of my tongue, so I'm just gonna say it. But sometimes people, me personally, sometimes I would think along with other people that okay, I get it. If I'm working towards my goal and I fail, that's fine. But sometimes I fail in a way that I feel like it was a waste of time, or it's a waste of resources, or I just feel like I did something totally left field that was truly, truly unproductive. What I'm realizing, Chef, is that this also is something that is in the right
Mhm.
direction, as weird as it sounds. But if we have so many doors open in front of us, and or closed rather, and we need to check each one of them to see what's the right door for us to, where is success behind which door.
Mhm.
The more doors you go through, the faster you're gonna narrow down your selection to finally finding that right door as such. But I want to hear your thoughts as well. Like, how do you think about this whole idea of like failure being a step also in the direction of success as opposed to a step backwards?
Bro, honestly, I will just take a snapshot of 10 years, okay, let's say, or 12 years. Uh, but obviously, like you said, okay, one thought I actually had while you were saying this thing of, you can look at a situation, or
Yeah,
when you fail in your life, you can either look at the situation being a failure or you yourself being a failure.
yeah,
Yeah. To me, I think end of the day, if you're part of that dynamics or if you're part of the equation, and if a situation fails, somehow this, you also feel like you're part of that failure.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
Now it is coming back one step is, I think this is like the hero quote of our podcast itself, is it all comes back to the mindset. Okay. It's all up how you look at it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Now, but this is something which is very easy said than done, because I think one thing you have to get really good at eventually is you have to really get good at failing. Yeah. And like you said, the more doors that you actually open, the more doors, you understand they are not the doors. If you are not, if you don't have that mindset, right, you'll open two doors.
yeah,
And you will realize that, two doors I open, it's not the door that I actually wanted. Okay. But if you don't have the right kind of mindset, right, I think you'll stop with the two doors. But all the third or fourth door is where your destination was ideally supposed to be. Yeah. So coming back to the idea of, yes, sometimes the situation can also be a failure. Maybe, you are connected to that situation as well. But when you think about it, I think, I don't know if this whole concept of failure is something that is really looked down upon at least in our society. And
Yeah.
if you actually remember, I think you also just mentioned this, that people think failure is something that has to be avoided. Yeah. Now, if
Yeah,
you remember,
yeah,
we
yeah.
were discussing this in the previous episode where we were talking about the fixed and growth mindset.
Growth mindsets, yeah.
Okay. Now, in the fixed mindset, failure is like a very big no, because the person who has that kind of a fixed mindset, he actually thinks that if he fails, this is proof that he is not talented.
Yeah.
It is proof that he is a failure in life.
I
generally.
love how as well, exactly, and it's amazing how, they come up with a logical argument for themselves, like, look,
Yeah.
like, I'm a reasonable person, and the reason why I believe I cannot do it is because, as you can see, here's the proof of me failing, and as I said, I cannot do this. And so in their mind, it's a very dangerous conversation, because someone might think, oh, it makes sense, when in fact, a growth mindset, and if people are interested, they should check out the previous episode in more detail. By definition says, look, like, I'm in a constant state of getting better, and if I put my focus on the effort required to improve day in and day out, I'm going to eventually change my state, and I'm going to start achieving my goal faster. But to go back to something important you said, Chef, like, definitely agree that it's something that, depending on which culture you come from, different cultures think of failure differently. But let's all agree that there are many. There is a majority that feels that, failure is, look, like, ideally you'd avoid it, right? Like, nothing great about failing. Ideally you'd succeed right away. When in fact, if you're working on anything worthwhile, anything that has not been done before, maybe anything that you have not done before, or someone from your family has not done before, something that's essentially new in some way, shape, or form, you are bound to fail, because just like you were not born learning how to walk or drive or whatever, this is also something that's new to you and you've never really done it before. But every time you fail, you're actually getting one step closer, as opposed to moving one step back. This was the big, like, epiphany for me, that failure is not a step back, but you have to be strong and go back. No, failure is helping you get there. If you succeed, you're already there, and if you failed, you're also already, like, moving in that right direction, because you're getting knowledge and you are building up experience. A lot of people think experience means And unfortunately, right, like when you apply for jobs and things like that, they always say, oh yeah, we need 3 years of experience, 4 years of experience, 10 years of experience. People always think experience means time spent doing something great. Oh, I have 10 years experience in being
Bro,
perfect.
I was
You
going to
know?
mention this, but you've mentioned it anyways. Yeah, go ahead. Yes.
Yeah, no, exactly, because it's like the whole part, we should redefine failure, but also redefine experience. Like if I have experience failing, and that's extremely valuable because now I know what not to do, and I know how to get to what I want to get to faster because I have experience failing. And I'll hand it over to you, Chef, in just a sec. That the image that comes very strongly in my mind is almost like trying to cross from one place to another, and there's a bunch of like land mines, okay? And sometimes you step on them and they blow up and things like that. So in your mind, you're just trying to almost like carve out a path and to remember that path. And when you recognize where they are, yes, you won't get there from the first go, but as you progress slowly, you'll start to get better at knowing that, okay, well, I know for a fact that it's not this one and it's not that one. So it's probably going to be one of those two, and your chances already are 50-50 or even higher in that case. And it's really a process step by step, but I want to hand it over to you to add to this.
I think that the landmine example was a very good example, but also I think Kareem, the reason is if you had asked me this question 5 to 10 years back, and similarly if we were to have this discussion 10 years back when you were in uni or when you were in your first job, I'm sure I'm not 100%, maybe 99.5% sure this is not the answer you would have given.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And
Definitely.
I'm going to leave a 5%, 0.5. Me personally, if you would ask me 5 years back, I think I was heavily influenced by this concept of failure. I should not fail. Like this thing of not, because the problem is, see, there is a theory about, that you should celebrate failures in life. Okay. Not celebrating that, what, wow, this guy has failed, but in the sense that, wow, this guy has failed, now he knows better, or I know better.
Yeah.
Okay. And my quick story, for example, personally in my life, past 12, 13 years, if anything, now how I look at failures is like, it's like the biggest source of learning individually. And I think this is the biggest problem most of us face. The reason we are not able to change ourselves is we never learn from our failures. And I think, Kareem, this is what is experience, bro. Like literally for me, what is experience is not all the things that I've done right. Okay, what I've actually done right is right anyways. Okay, but for some people it's right and what went wrong. But for me, mainly what I call experience is when I've actually done something and it has not worked. Once, twice, thrice, then it worked.
Yeah.
So that first and second attempt at it is what I would consider as experience. And the third time I got it right. Now, khalas, I'm experienced in particular thing because I've failed so many times in it.
You have experience, yeah.
And personally also, I don't know if you've ever noticed in my LinkedIn profile, this is how, I have a very small write-up in that the main thing I actually emphasize is about how the agency business that I'm right now into was my fourth business 5 years back. Yeah. And reaching there, how I actually failed amazingly well in the first three. But at that time, I did not
amazingly well.
Yeah. And see, this is me. This is the current Shiaf. I don't know which version this is. But that version of Shiaf 5 to 6 years back would not have said. I would say, you know what, man, it was a very bad experience. At least after I failed in the first two businesses. The third business, which was my own startup, which I failed at, then I realized, I saw, you know what, all these businesses I've been part of. And surprisingly, the first business, I was a co-founder. Second one, I was working very closely with the founder. Third one, I was the only owner of the business.
Okay.
Yeah. And the third business, when I started, I decided that, you know what, I will not make mistakes the previous founders or co-founders did. But when I started my own business, I did every mistake that a person running a business alone would actually do. Yeah. So
and can I ask you, was it the same mistakes that happened before, or was it a new set of mistakes?
honestly saying, Kareem, okay, I can lie, but I'll not lie. I would say some of the mistakes that I did in my third business, which was by myself, I
Hmm.
repeated a lot of business because I mean, repeated a lot of the mistakes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
But like the smallest thing is how I manage my money, like literally. And one of the reasons usually startups or new businesses, even though they have some traction or they even have something very good to offer, it could be a
Hmm.
startup, it could be your mom and pop coffee shop,
Hmm.
it could be your whatever. One of the reasons they close is because they don't have enough money to sustain until things start becoming profitable.
Of course. Yeah.
Yeah. So this is so for me. Like I did like three things right. All seven things out of 10 I did wrong. So after these three failures, right, I actually sat down. I started actually looking back. So when I got involved in the current business I'm into, right, this is almost 6 years. I decided that one thing I will not do is I will not repeat any of these mistakes.
Hmm.
And I honestly believe this is the reason I have actually survived so long in the business that I'm in right now. Yeah, because I avoid it. And surprisingly, I also have somebody who is working with me who will also not allow me to do some of these mistakes as well.
Hmm.
So looking back, Kareem, failure for me is, I think it might sound like a very cliche statement, but literally, if you want to learn something from your life or somebody else's life, more than the successes, always look at the failures.
Hmm.
Because sometimes you don't have to make the mistakes yourself, or you don't have to fail yourself.
Yeah.
You can actually, this is why today, if you go online, whatever industry that you are into, be it a tech startup, be it a job, for example. Yeah, okay, we keep taking examples of startups here in this podcast because maybe we guys are in that space in some sort of form. But there are a lot of people who are working. Okay, if there is a particular role that you know that you've been failing, or it's a very difficult role, before getting into that role, you can always find people who've actually failed in that role before.
Hmm.
And the kind of input these people give is will be better than the people who are really good at it, because the people who are really good at it will actually tell you, you know what, you need to do XYZ to be really successful. But at the same time, the people who failed, if they understand, you know what, this is why I failed, just make sure you don't do this, or you don't fall short of these things. So I think failure
Yeah.
needs to be really relooked at. And like you said, Kareem, there are a lot of episodes. Yeah, like obstacle is the way is a very interesting episode where we actually give you a perspective on how to relook failure.
Hmm.
And I think even some other episodes as well. So personally for me, I think failure is all about learning. And today, this is what I will say, even though there is a lot of stress around it, like because even today, the kind of things that I'm actually doing on my day to day, be it my business, be it my personal life, okay, there are a lot of things I know after a year or two, I will look back and I'll call it as, okay, there'll be some things I will fail in, but again, it's going to be learning for me. What about you,
Yeah.
bro? What do you think?
Man, I love what you said. I couldn't agree more. I think one of the important things that really resonated with me that you said is that you are more valuable as a human from an experience perspective, when you've actually learned how to not do something as much as how to do something. I think that someone like that is a lot more experienced than someone who knows how to do something and that's it, but doesn't really know any other way. So I'll just say it again in case people missed it. But if you know how not to do something and you've quote unquote failed by learning all what not to do really, and you figured it out eventually, you are a lot more experienced than someone who's like, oh well, I got lucky. Because to be honest, it really is luck. If you figure it out right away, that really is luck in my books. um, yeah, and without mentioning any names because I can't even remember them, but I'm a very inquisitive person. Like many times I'd ask someone a question and I'd say, oh well, why not this or why not that? And many times they say, oh well, that's just the way it is, or that's the only thing I know. And other people, a lot of other people, they would say, this is why this works. This is why this other thing does not work. Okay, to the right of it and to the left of it, this is why also this does not. So you feel like this guy's wise or this girl is wise. Like you could really appreciate their experience. And then the second thing that I actually wanted to ask you, Chef, is, and I know we're close to time, so maybe this could be the final question, is a lot of people get the point of, okay, I get it. I got to go through failures and that's how I get to success. Essentially, you're getting closer. But you touched on something that was very real, and I'll be completely honest. And put my hand up as well. Like I have repeated mistakes that I should know better that I've done previously in the past.
I had this
Okay.
point in my mind. Go ahead. Ask me a
So
question.
personally and professionally. So my question to you is, and this is a very like question from the heart, even though even though you have come across these mistakes before, you had still repeated it. Okay, so this was from business 1 and 2 over to business 3. So there was something there where you know better, but it still happened. And then now onto your current business. So this is kind of one scenario. The second scenario is you managed to make a 360 evolving, because in the second scenario you knew the mistakes and this time you did not let it repeat. So can you walk us through, when people already know what doesn't work, sometimes it could be difficult. So how do you know what I'm trying to say between the two situations?
Yeah. Honestly saying, I think while you were talking about this whole thing of failures and I'll answer first the question that you asked me. For example,
Yeah.
about how do we, why do we actually keep repeating? Like, even you have the learning,
Yeah, exactly.
but you still commit. I think it is purely, for me personally, the reason after 2 businesses, in the third business I actually again committed the same mistakes is, even though I had the learning, bro, I think it's purely because of my mindset. Okay, I was not ready to actually accept facts sometimes, or I was not ready to actually accept. Like, I did not feel at that time like these are learnings. I used to feel like, this does not apply to me. Okay,
Nice.
it only applies to him. Even though, see,
Even
of the
though it was a
time, okay?
universal thing.
Yeah, even though this is a very universal thing, and there are a lot of things like this in our life where most of the things are universal. The biggest example is relationships, Kareem. Okay, you might have had that odd friend who had come to you, or odd friends who would have come to you with their relationship, some challenges. And I always say this to people that, you know what, there is no 100 different combinations of problems. Usually it is the 5 or 10 or 15 or 20 problems, literally. Yeah. But even though people know this, and this is the same person, see, I'm telling this, but when it comes to my situation, sometimes I will not be, what advice I've actually given, maybe I'll not follow. And this will only happen because purely based on, some people might call it like, maybe because of the arrogance I have, or maybe I'm not ready to accept the reality. So answering your question, why do people actually keep doing this mistakes even after they know? It's just because I think they are not they're not accepting the fact, like, they were wrong, or this was something that is relating to them. And one second thing, Kareem, I quickly wanted to add is also, I was talking about celebrating failure. Okay.
Yeah.
Just to clarify, does not mean that after listening to this podcast, a guy, like, if you are in school or if you're in business, you've seen, because I've personally seen many people, they have done business 1, business 2, business 3, business 4, business 5. They are like failing. Like, I think they're doing their PhD in failures right now. Okay.
Yeah.
Now this is another extreme. Now we've already said, okay, failing is good, but at the same time, be careful in yourself or the people around you. There are some people, okay, these people don't go and ask to learn from them, because these are people, even after the 5th failure, right? They feel nothing is wrong
Yeah.
with them, or the way they are doing business, or the way they are doing a particular job. Because I think this is when you actually listen to the universe is trying to tell you something. And that person
Yeah.
really needs to know that. So don't mix this 2 things together about failure. Yes, ideally, the best case scenario is somebody who's failed 1, 2, 3, 4th, he got successful, 5th, he got successful. This is a good person. That is a better place to be in. Like, you have 3 or 4 failure stories, but where you're standing, at least, I'm not saying you become the most successful person in the world, but you have, where you stand right now, you are stable. So, this is more valuable experience than somebody who's like 35 years old. I'm not saying this 35-year-old person cannot be successful, but at least there is something that they have not cracked till now. They have not realized why they are failing so much.
Yeah.
So yeah,
and just to add to that as well, like from the way I would like interpret it from my side is that you really want to look for trends, because for example, you could be working on like a huge goal that's like a 10-year goal, 15-year goal. So, time necessarily isn't the variable. Like, if it's going to take time, then it is what it is, right? Like, we all know, right? Elon Musk with the SpaceX, and they finally figured it out. Like big goals and big dreams take time.
Bro, don't
so,
get me started. We don't have time. But yeah.
but like, as I think, like, guys, like, as Chef was saying, like, you really want to see those, you want to be objective, and you want to notice trends. Like, if you're trying something and it doesn't seem to be working, and it's been a long period of time, if you have reason to believe that this should be continued, okay, then maybe you know your subject matter best. Maybe you have a mentor. Maybe you have reason to believe that. All right, keep on doing it. But if you also have reason to believe, like, you know what, I'm not going to change my goal, but I am going to change my methodology, my approach towards getting there. This is also equally smart, and being being objective as well. That the goal didn't change. I'm just going to try B instead of trying A for a little bit. Yeah.
Perfect. I think so. I think the biggest takeaway from this whole discussion, like as usual, this is just like 1% of the whole discussion around failure, is one, don't be afraid of failure. Like literally, don't worry, about failing. Second is, if you're planning to do something from the get-go, like, we have this expression saying, be prepared for the worst case scenario.
Yeah.
Most of the time, what is worst case scenario is when you're going to start a new project, when you're going to start something new, from the get-go, decide that, what, if my plan is to actually do it in 1 month, I will only be able to do this in 3 months. Okay. If you are thinking you will do it in 2 attempts, make sure add an additional 5 attempts. I will do it in 7 attempts. So what happens is you are setting expectations from the beginning, which is going to be, so one, don't be afraid of fear. I mean, don't be fearful of failure. Second thing is, try and inculcate this mindset where you fail fast and you get really good at failing. But not throughout your life, but you fail fast so that you can actually win. So you've already opened all the doors, and you end of the day in the right door.
Yeah,
so I think Karim, that's more or less. Is there anything you want to add before we actually close?
I'll squeeze in one thing real quick, which is, I remember, I don't know who talked about this. I think it was Kevin Hart on his recent episode of the Joe Rogan podcast. He was there a second time, and you're saying that, you never really, he's, he is the number one like comedian right now, and, very successful businessman overall. But one of the things he realized is that, you don't get to a stage where you're like, I'm now successful and I'm going to chill out for the next 20, 30, 40 years, whatever of my life, right? The problems grow in complexity. The challenges grow in complexity. So there's never going to be a period. And I used to be in denial about this, Chef. Like, I used to think, I'm just going to keep working. And then one day, I'm going to wake up, all the problems are solved. I'm going to be on a boat. I'm going to chill out for the rest of my life.
Never.
Exactly. So I think the only difference of someone becoming more experienced with time is that you start to make, Chef, as you were alluding to, you really start to make friends with failure. You start to get really good at failure, and it's not something that will ever finish. But it's okay, because you're now starting to rethink about it, and you're realizing that failure, as corny as it sounds, but failure really is your friend, and it really will help to get you to where you are, no matter what small goal you're working on right now or whatever big goals you might be working on in the future. Yeah.
I think so, guys. I hope, especially after this podcast, you guys have a better understanding and relationship with failure, and let us know what you guys think.
Definitely.
If you want us to do one more episode on this, we'll be more than happy. But until then, guys, we will see you in the next episode. And take care, guys. Have a lovely week. Bye-bye.
See you guys. Bye-bye.